Smoke Monster says, "We'll cut off your Johnson." Johnson? I don't need... This setup of hanging my webcam on my mic stand is, like, not maybe the best. Now we're back to Craftwork. Didn't want to do that. Now I gotta reset the system again. Okay. Alright. Don't need my phone. Do need to be able to reach my drink. My old boss gave me this Thor cup. It's really great. It's like double walled. It's good for cold drinks. Can't put it in the dishwasher, but what are you gonna do? All right, so that was just a demo that I found that I thought was cool. That I wanted to just have kind of going. I actually wanted. It's interesting that Smoke Monster is in the chat because I sort of want to get some of this kind of stuff that Smoke Monster plays stuff like a half hour before he goes on. That's like really cool pixel art with like some cool like synthwave jams and chiptunes and stuff. And just having like a pre-show roll would be nice because then the stream is live. People can come and like see that the stream is live. Something is happening, even if I'm not ready to go yet while I was getting everything hooked up. But big part of what I'm doing today, I know this is like is this the third Patreon stream of 3 where I've played Genesis games? It might be. But I'm testing this out. This is the 8-bit Do M30 2.4 gigahertz controller, which some folks at RetroRGB, a member of, and now I can't remember his name, Todd from Todd's Nerd Cave wrote the article on RetroRGB, but it was someone from Smoke Monster's Discord who actually did the legwork to figure out that this thing is very close to Crick's Joy's controller that goes with the Genesis, but it costs like $35 less, and I don't have to wait for it to get shipped from Poland or whatever. So I like 8-bit Do. Their stuff so far has been very good quality, and honestly, I like that the Crix one is basically identical to a real 6-button Genesis controller, but this controller feels a little bit more like a Saturn pad, which I know Smoke Monster's with me on this. I love the Saturn pad. I have a Saturn pad for my PS2 that a friend of mine gave me for my birthday like 15 years ago. Yeah, because it was a 15th anniversary Street Fighter controller. So it was 15 years ago, give or take. A friend of mine gave me, and I still have it. It's got like a lenticular thing of Ken doing a dragon punch in the middle, but it's basically made. I believe they're actually made from molds of Saturn controllers. I'm not sure about that, but I think Newbie might have made them or somebody. I don't think it was Mad Cats, but that's a good controller. But this controller kind of feels like a Saturn controller, so that's what I'm going for. Smoke Monster says, yes, that's a good way to develop an audience too, by talking about controllers while you're not playing a game, or by doing the demo stuff or the pixel art stuff. So I think that's what he actually means. So yeah, I kind of figured like, it's reason you'll ever drive here. So what's great about this is I can stream my Genesis, my real Genesis, because it's way over there. And with this guy, we're good to go. So because it's almost WrestleMania time, and I just posted a wrestling video, and actually patrons are about to get the new Obscure Old Games should go up for patrons today, which is going to be 3-count bout for the Neo Geo. So that's going to go up. I'm almost done with it. I had to actually stop editing it right at the very end to do this. But it should be finished. You guys should have it before, I would say, like 10 o'clock Central Time at the latest. Unless something goes really, really awry. So, but because it's almost WrestleMania time, I was thinking I'd play some wrestling games. Probably play some other stuff too, but we'll start with some wrestling games. And I was actually going to start with, as you can see, if you're looking at I was going to start with Wrestle War, but I don't see it here, which is weird. Is it a European game? There it is. We're going to do some Wrestle War. Which I'm just going to tell you right now. It's like not that good of a game. But, got some chiptune Beethoven up in here. You know, it's got a sound test, so the science tells us that that makes it a slightly better game than it otherwise would be. We got a couple people watching. We had a vote to see which day we wanted to do this, and most of the votes were Welcome to Wrestle War. Most of the votes were for Sunday, so that's what we're doing. So this was a game that I first played in those heady early days of emulation, when emulation was brand new and you know, you would just grab ROMs and just see. And early in those days, I played a lot of wrestling games because I was a wrestling fan, and that was like during the Attitude Era. Those early days of emulation, like they sort of coincided. Also, everybody should, like, if there's audio problems, whoever should let me know. Anybody in the chat should let me know. But in those heady early days of emulation, it coincided with the Attitude Era of wrestling, and I was just such a mark. That, you know, anything wrestling related, and I was getting back into vintage games. I never stopped being into classic games, I guess, but there was a moment where, what a maneuver. There was a moment where, you know, my parents were big on sort of the value of a dollar thing in a lot of ways. So, I basically had to, a lot of times, sell my old systems to get new games, or new systems. And, so I didn't have a lot of my old games, and I started sort of reacquiring and collecting right at the end of high school, first year of college-ish is where I started, like, I could choose. A lot of the big territories in professional wrestling here. Although it's weird that we've got, like, Masked Killer in Minneapolis, which I don't know what that's even supposed to be a reference to. We've got Road Warrior, well, it looks like the Gaspers kind of it. Road Warrior Hawk in New York, which you would think he would be in the South because the Road Warriors were a WCW team. Titan Morgan, that's pretty obvious in Dallas, but he should be in New York because he was a WWF champion. I'm not sure who Nimrod Falcon is supposed to be, but wrestling in Florida was a big thing, of course, in San Francisco. Sledgehammer, that looks like Bruiser Brody, which he was a West Coast guy, so that makes sense. But let's go to Minneapolis. I actually have a whole book about the history of wrestling in Minnesota that my grandfather gave me, that I still haven't read, but that's like one of my next things to read is this book on the history of wrestling in Minneapolis. Anyways, so yeah, the rise of emulation and the Attitude Era in professional wrestling really coincided, and so this was a game I played on emulator and didn't realize, like, it's all in English because it's the ROM is the same for Europe and Japan. So, like, I had no idea. Like, I was just like, maybe I just never played this game. And it wasn't until way later that I realized, like, nope, this game didn't come out in the US until the Dreamcast, that Dreamcast collection of that Dreamcast Sega Classics collection. That was the first time I believe Wrestle War, and that might have been the arcade ROM. Well, it's honestly, especially for such an early Genesis game, this actually looks pretty good. Nice spinning heel kick. I used to love doing that move. It was one of my signature moves. I would do the way I would do it is I would line someone up for the spinning heel kick, and I would go to the ring wearing like tearaway jogging pants. So I would line somebody up for the spinning heel kick, and then when I hit the spinning heel kick, I would do a kip up and tear off the tearaway pants and have my pink trunks on underneath. And people hated that. It was great. So that was sort of that's my story about the spinning heel kick. So I'm just kind of rambling because there's not a lot going on in the chat, so I'm just going to kind of talk about wrestling and video games until I get tired of that and move on to something else. You don't belong in the ring. But yeah, that game, or GameCube, that Dreamcast Genesis collection it's weird because it should be good, but it's not. Like, Sega's had a couple missteps in their history, and actually this is a very appropriate thing to talk about right this moment, because if you're a patron watching this and not someone who's watching it like a month after it went up, wow, he just shit-canned me to the outside, and now I'm getting hit with a foreign object and I can't do anything about it. Maybe get back in the ring? Like, I don't... Okay, A doesn't do it, B doesn't do it, C doesn't do it, double tapping up doesn't do it. Oh, okay, I have to not be... He can block me from getting in the ring. That's cool. Yeah, so... Sega's had some missteps when it's come to their own collections of games, and that's appropriate because they just announced their entry into the mini console fracas, the Mega Drive Mini or the Genesis Mini that will be coming out in September. That's a Bruiser Brody knee drop right there for sure. Even though his hair isn't as long as Bruiser Brody, but. You know, they did like a Sega CD pack-in for, I don't remember, I think it was Model 1 Sega CD. It was Sherlock Holmes and like a collection of Genesis games, but like Golden Axe didn't support 2 players, like stuff like that. And it's just like, why? Why would you even bother? What is the point of even doing this? And, you know, they did the same thing on the Dreamcast. There were a whole bunch of problems with that, especially the big problem, as I recall, was the sound emulation on that Dreamcast collection. Just awful. And that was how people first experienced this game in America, unless they experienced it by emulation, which probably is actually how most people experienced it. Okay, so I can't do a knee drop. I can just stomp. That's a pile driver, Daddy. Oh, no, that's an unback pin. That must be my finisher. This is the SWF title match. Didn't even realize that. This was a championship match. Strap. I got the gold, Daddy. I got the strap. I'm taking it home to... And your guy looks like Antonio Inoki, kind of, so I guess I'm taking it home to Japan. I'll take on Road Warrior Hawk. He's a tag team wrestler, right? So it should be easy. He's a tag team specialist wrestling a singles match. So yeah, so it's really cool that Sega's, you know, and Sega's unashamed about their back catalog, which is something that I really do appreciate. A lot of companies really don't like to release their old games as much. The only problem with Sega, I would say, is that like it's just it's the same games over and over and over again. And I think it's valuable that those games, you know, that those games be available. You know, I think there's a great deal of value in that. But, you know, Sega's got a massive back catalog, and it would just be really cool to see them actually put some stuff out that they haven't yet. Like, they just announced another round of Sega Ages, Nice fist drop. Really great looking fist drop. You know, they just announced another Sega Ages round for the Switch, and you know, it's a lot of stuff that's been out there before. Some that hasn't, which is cool. But the one for me, the one that I have just been absolutely lusting after and wanting them to release is the second Golden Axe arcade game, The Revenge of Death Adder. And cause it's just never been out there. It's never been ported. It's strictly an arcade game. And which you know if you watched my 5 reasons to visit an arcade video that I did about a year ago with Eric from Game vs. Game. You know, so I'd love to see that, and not like I don't. Okay, so I'm gonna say I have actually pre-ordered the Genesis Mini, but I would like to see, you know, some stuff that again hasn't been re-released a million times. I don't need Sonic the Hedgehog 1 again. I don't need even like Gunstar Heroes. I probably have 4 or 5 copies of Gunstar Heroes. Like I don't need Gunstar Heroes again. But Bloodlines, which I own, I own a copy of Bloodlines, Castlevania Bloodlines anyways, but it's cool that they're putting that on the Genesis Mini. And that M2 is doing the emulation, because that was the point that I was trying to get to, is that, you know, some of these internally developed things, the Dreamcast thing, the Sega CD collection of these Genesis games, you know, could have been a lot better. And the mini consoles that they've done so far, with the pre-installed games, it doesn't seem like there's any way for me to avoid that. You know, these mini consoles that Sega's done before were by a company called At Games, and they just felt so slapdash and so shoddy, and it was cool that some of those were the first time, you know, that some games were released in America, like the first official release of Mega Man: The Wily Wars in the United States was on one of those At Games consoles. So that's cool. But when the emulation is trash, and it sounds like trash, and it looks like trash, and there's graphical issues and everything, like, why? Why do I want to do that? But they really have apparently heard the fans and understand sort of the value that M2 brings to the table. And M2 is doing the emulation, and that was enough, honestly, for me to pre-order one. I'm going to do a video. Obviously, this is going to be way off in the future because the thing doesn't come out until September, but I am planning on doing a video where I'm going to compare real hardware, which is I'm playing right now on my JVC Xi, to M2's emulation to Mister. Because I love the Genesis core on Mister, but I do know for a fact that at least a couple games have issues. Like Dynamite Headdy has some graphical glitches. Doesn't affect gameplay, at least not as far as I played. But there are graphical glitches, and so I think that it's worth sort of taking a look at this official solution, this little nifty thing, and to give some props to M2 in the process. So, you know. Alright, well now it's just down to me and Titan Morgan. There's only one champ, brother, and you're looking at him. Dude. We'll see about that. I'm Titan. There's that Beethoven. Dropkick right in the mush. Right in the kisser, as Gorilla Monsoon would say. That's a weird move to do from a back grapple, but whatever, I guess. Body drop. I wish I could do something besides just stomp on them. Like, I don't know this game being harder, but maybe that's the arcade version I'm thinking of. That was tougher. Ooh, look at that super pile driver. Ran to the pin. 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. Double champion, undisputed champion of the Sega Wrestling Alliance and the Sega Wrestling Federation, I guess? I don't know. Oh no, I'm not Buckskin Rogers. I don't look like a champ to him, apparently.
Welcome to Wrestle War.
How dare you come in here, come into my house and try to take my title. Oh, whiffed on that. Clothesline. Spinning heel kick. Why does everybody do a spinning heel kick? Not that many guys actually use that move. Especially at the time this game came out. Like, very few people used the spinning heel kick. At that time. We're getting into the classic button mash to win grapples thing where like the computer just wins unless you're able to push the button at like an inhumanly fast pace. Had to switch my grip, had to get some weasel fingers on there. Also, this controller's great. Like, I'm not a shill, they didn't send this to me, I bought it. I'm loving it. This is another problem with old wrestling games. You had an energy bar, it's like you know that you're not gonna pin them until they're out of energy, so like why even bother? But my wrestling psychology addled brain, can't not go for a pinfall once in a while. Buckskin Rogers. I've had about enough of you, buddy. Time up. I lose on the time limit. That's bogus. And now we're just doing the thing where he's just gonna win every grapple automatically because he's the computer player. And that's how this works. Apparently, even when I win a grapple and throw him into the ropes, I can't get my move off fast enough to actually hit him with it. This is more how I remember this game. There we go. Nothing like being able to grab a groggy opponent and then have him just like hit you anyways. This is ridiculous. Time limit. All right. All right, we're gonna switch the game. There's supposed to be a hotkey to just kick back. There's supposed to be a hotkey to just kick back to the menu, but I can't get it to work. Maybe this may need to update my firmware. I'm not sure, but do some Slam Masters, which is another one of those games that, like, I do have a cartridge of, but it's just so much easier to just, especially sitting this far away, just boot it up on the EverDrive. But I do have a cartridge here. And this, if you remember, the only episode of Same Name Different Game for 2013, I said this was the better version. This game is a lot quieter than the last game. I wonder if I need to... Just nudging that up a little bit in the in OBS. So if it's like super loud now, let me know if you can't hear me or whatever. Alright. The deathmatch thing is super cool, but it's 2-player only, so can't do that. Stick in the middle here. Time limit, yes. Attack, jump, pin. No, let's go. Oh, it detected that I have a 6-button controller plugged in. That's cool. I don't think I would want exactly that. There we go. Okay, there we go. Music in this version, probably not as good as the Super Nintendo. And when I say probably, I mean like definitely not as good as the Super Nintendo version. But just about everything else, there's actually more like voices, more frames of animation, that kind of thing. So I actually really like this version. No 4-player though. If you want to do 4-player, you gotta have the Super NES. Three count. Put him down with the jalapeno comet, baby. I'm honestly surprised that more people aren't watching. Like I would have thought that the weekday streams would be less popular than a weekend patron stream, but apparently not. Let's make this fast. I have a date with your sister. Entrances. This is weird. It's weird to talk about this stuff now, but like the idea that this game had entrances was a big deal in the early 90s. The mid 90s. Like at that time, none of the WWF games, besides the arcade games, they didn't have entrances. You know, Super WrestleMania and Royal Rumble and stuff. Like there were no entrances in those games. Butterfly suplex, baby. I'm just toying with him. Another victim of the jalapeno comet. He actually has that's one of his specials, but he actually has a finisher type move, but it's kind of hard to pull off because you have to grapple and then do a command input. And the problem with this game that I don't want to say sequel because it's not really a sequel, but the sort of iterative, the Street Fighter 2 Turbo, it's called Muscle Bomber Duo, that version does is it gives you your own grapple button. So it's hard to grapple on purpose in this game and then do a command input without accidentally, like, because usually you're mashing because you're punching and then you get into a grapple. And then, so it's kind of hard to pull off, but he does the same jalapeno comet thing, except he goes up and comes straight down on top of the opponent's head. I'm going to try to pull it off at least once. If I remember. I believe it's Dragon Punch, and when you're in a grapple, you do Dragon Punch when you're in a grapple. And that does it. Oh, early jalapeno comet. Mike Hanger is not fazed by that, though. a second jalapeno comet put him down. Yes, it will. Also, there's no rope breaks in this game, apparently. I thought there were. Or maybe there only are for submissions, and not for... Smoke Monster says spicy. Yeah. Yep. Head back to the gym, you little girly man. I'd love to see this get a re-release. Like this, it would be cool if Capcom did a trilogy, a Slam Masters trilogy, like for download. That would be super dope, but I don't think they will, because if the art style in this game looks a little familiar to you, it's because the characters were all, except for Mike Hagar, of course, were all designed by Tetsuo Hara, who did Fist of the North Star. So they can't re-release these games without cutting a check to Fist of the North Star guy. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, man. It would be cool. I mean, they cut a check to the Motokikaku manga collective every time they re-release Strider or make a new Strider, which happens kind of more often than I really expected it would, certainly at one point. So I don't know. You know, it's not impossible, but I also think that, oh, the neck wringer, what a brutal maneuver. That's really hard to pull off. You have to grab your, to get your opponent in a grapple and do a 360. Oh, so ends the winning streak of El Stingray, but I demand a rematch. Yeah, so I mean, they could have checked to the Motokikaku people every time they do a new Strider, so I don't really see a reason why they couldn't but Tetsuo Hara maybe commands a higher price because Fist of the North Star is insanely popular still to this day, and you know, he probably makes a good amount of money, so who knows, but that would be cool to have Slam Masters, Muscle Bomber Duo, and Slam Masters 2 Ring of Destruction all in one package. That would just be really dope. And yes, I know that like MAME exists, but you know, I think making these games accessible to people who, you know, don't sort of tinker in that way that people like me or Smoke Monster do, that they just want to like get a thing on their system and play the game, and like that's it. They don't want to deal with downloading ROM sets, and you know, they don't trust the sites where you find those, and you know, which is legitimate because a lot of the sites where you find those are shady, and who knows what kind of malware is living on those things, and you know, but you know, having and this is where the game gets hard. You know, having an otherwise legitimate way to you know, be able to download those games. Like, I mean, I could get all the games in the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, you know, by downloading them on MAME, but I still have the collection. If you're playing online, like, whoa. Kurt and Eric and I played through King of Dragons, and it runs at about 10 frames a second when you're playing online, and I don't know what the problem was, but not only did I buy it, in fact, I imported the physical version from Japan. You know, and I mean, they're not the best emulations of those games, maybe, but you know, unless you're a tinkerer or you know, someone with some money to throw around, you know, it's tough to get those games. You know, I mean, it'd be easy to say, well, everyone should just get a Super Gun and Darksoft's CPS2 kit, and like, then you'd have all those games, and it's sort of like, well, okay, like, a lot easier said than done, you know. Who kicks out at 1? Come on, come back in. Come get some. This feud ends tonight, baby. You cannot sink the Titanic. That's the other thing. Because of the Tetsuo Hara thing, none of these characters ever appear in other games, except for Mike Hagar. Which is a bummer. Like, I always kind of hoped there would be another one of these, or that at least, like, El Stingray, or, you know, Scorpion, or somebody would appear in another game, you know, a fighting game or whatever, and you know, they don't, because again, they were designed by Tetsuo Hara. So, ooh, it's like a choke suplex. So this is supposed to be a moonsault, but the way that the game rendered it, it looked more like a standing shooting star press. Whatever works though. So many drum fills. So many FM synth drum fills. Grader's gonna beat me like a hog, apparently. Alexander the Greater. All the names in Japanese are also great. Like, so he's Alexander the Greater, is obviously a reference to Big Van Vader with that helmet. But in Japan, he's Sheep the Mighty. There we go. That's what I was going for. Whoa! Argentinian backbreaker. Oh no! He deflected my jalapeno comet. I talked about this a little bit in the video I did all those years ago, but I really like that even the rings and the ring skirts are different in each location. Like, you could just put the name of the town over, you know, every one of these and just be like, yep, this is London. But the fact that it's like, no, this is like, the turnbuckles are different, and the ring skirts are different, and the design in the canvas in some cases is different. Like, of course, I tried to do the finishing move, and now I'm going to lose because of it. Oh, there we go. Boom! That's it. It's all over now, Daddy. That was a happy accident. So yeah, that's what you just saw there is his actual finishing move. But again, it's hard to pull off, obviously. Boom! Again. Oh, now apparently I've just figured out how to... do it every time. Got him. I don't know. YouTube is telling me that the video output is low, but OBS is telling me that I'm outputting whatever. Yeah, it's 60 frames per second at 3600 kbps should be fine, but YouTube is saying not getting enough video to maintain smooth streaming, which is ridiculous, but whatever, I guess. Oof. YouTube is caught up. Smoke Monster says stream quality looks infinitely better than mine last night. I was watching yours on my phone, dude. I was watching I was watching the Brewers, the Capitals, and your stream at the same time, or trying to. And so your stream was on my phone. I think we're all good now, though. The green, back to green. So I think it's recognizing, real recognizes real. I disabled my VPN because if I'm streaming, everybody knows what I'm doing online. So why bother pretending with a VPN? But I think that was part of the problem. Is maybe sometimes the VPN gets slow and that causes issues. So I should turn it off whenever I stream, but This is the final boss, by the way. Which, this is version, you can actually play as the two bosses. The guy I just beat and this guy are both... And he just perfected me. Whooped me. Yeah, you can play as Scorp in this version. But not in the Super Nintendo version. That's another thing that made me, sort of put it down for this version in that video that I did 6 years ago. 6 years ago. That with 2 extra playable characters, the deathmatch mode, the additional frames of animation, some of the extra speech samples, even though the music is worse and like visually it's like slightly more muted, let's put it that way. A lot of people say muddy. Muddy is probably not the right word. The color palette is more muted than the Super Nintendo version, which I think is fine. What? See, this is the problem, and this is the way a lot of old school games like this deal with their boss characters. Is they just get priority over everything. If you do a move and they do a move, their move takes priority like all the time. So there's no way to, and it's not like a double down thing where you saw in some of the earlier matches, like if I did the flying headbutt, and they did something, it'd be like you'd hit and they'd both fall down, but like this time he just gets like kicked me out of the air and like that's it. Smoke Monster says, "Ha, good company." Yeah, man. Well, you're living in Illinois now, and I think I know you went to school in Wisconsin, but I feel like you've said you're from Illinois originally, so I don't know. You could be a Cubs fan. I don't know. Or maybe you're just not into baseball. I don't know. Oh, see, I like my finisher. My special move doesn't even take priority over him. That's that. That's all she wrote there. Now it's a matter of pride. Like, now I'm just not gonna beat this guy. With the green gear this time, let's see if that helps. There we go. When you grapple with him, so that's another thing. Because your strike button and your grapple button are the same, it's just like, why didn't I grapple him there? We were both right near each other, we were both hitting the button apparently, and he just like, nope, he just does, and I just don't, and then he can just infinitely get me in a stun lock and keep picking me up and doing moves. Smoke Monster says, yeah, I grew up as a Cubs fan, but I know nothing about baseball for the last 19 years or so. That's fair, I guess. The Cubs finally won the big one. So, unfortunately for me as a Brewers fan, but the Brewers are going to win the big one this year, so. Okay, I don't need to see the intros yet again. We're good on that. So yeah, after about an hour of playing with it, I gotta say this 8-bit do controller is really, it's super comfortable. The action on the buttons feels good. You know, there is no perceptible lag, which is the thing. You know, I mean, people be like, I want it to be lagless, and it's like, dude, the lag on this controller averages 3.7 milliseconds. That's like, what, less than a frame? Yeah, that's less than a frame. So, like, you know. And the nice thing is, you know, playing through a frame, with this wireless controller and through the FrameMeister, I don't perceive any lag. There are people who will say they're super lag sensitive, they notice even a single fraction of a frame, and it's just like, humans don't perceive motion that way, and human reaction time isn't, you know, for the vast majority of people, you know, that your reaction time is not that tuned. And so, because the thing that I think kind of gets passed over about the FrameMeister and the OSSC, the OSSC is, you know, I mean, people talk about how it's lagless, but what people don't realize is when you plug a system like this into a modern television without an external scaler, you're asking your TV to do the work, and your TV sucks at doing that work. It doesn't suck, I mean, it can do it, but that's where the lag comes from. So with a FrameMeister or an OSSC, you have less lag than you would if you just plugged your component or plugged composite cables right into the back of the TV. And I think HD Retrovision cables, I've heard, are I mean, I've heard they're very good. I haven't used them myself because by the time that they were putting out a lot of sets of cables, I already had a scaler. And I don't know if the clean signal from those helps avoid that. I mean, I think a lot of people just like to use them with, you know, PVMs and BVMs and that kind of thing because they make the image look really good, and they actually are, you know, component cables. But I think the display lag is still there because you're still sending a 240 signal to a 1080 display, so your TV is, or you know, 720 or whatever. So your TV is still doing something. But I mean, some people use those instead of SCART cables and put them into a scaler, which would, you know, which of course is also a totally cool thing to do. But yeah, an external scaler like the OSSC or the FrameMeister is going to get you there quicker than the TV would itself, and of course it's going to look better because you can tune the settings and everything. I like that this game was like relatively easy up until the final boss, and now it's just like get whooped over and over and over again. You can't grapple him. He just grapples you automatically. So yeah, I don't know. The you know, the 8-bit do Bluetooth controller has a lot more lag. It's got actually what turns out to be, I think, a frame or two or whatever. Which, I mean, this one is actually cheaper than the Bluetooth one, because the Bluetooth one, you have to get a retro receiver for your system, and of course then the trade-off is like you can use it on your computer, you can use it on your whatever, you can use it on a bunch of stuff, but this guy comes with a little receiver, but it's really meant just to use on your Genesis, although apparently you can use the USB cable to plug it directly into your Switch, so you can't use it wirelessly on the Switch, but you can plug it in, which is cool. I don't know how much I'll do that, because I have a arcade stick that I use when I'm playing vintage games on my Switch. So I don't know that I will necessarily get a ton of mileage out of using them, but again, this thing feels really good. So actually, like, maybe if I'm playing a game that was originally a Genesis game, some of the Sega Ages stuff from, Lightning Force, as part of M2's collection, like, maybe I would hook this guy up and use it, even though I prefer my arcade stick for shoot-'em-ups generally, but this is a good pad. I'm really happy with this. I really am. And I'm really happy with the Super Nintendo, the Super Famicom style pad that I got with my Super NT. I haven't, like I said, apparently the Bluetooth has more lag, but I haven't really noticed. I mean, I haven't tried to play like Super Punch Out or anything that I can remember on my Super NT with that wireless controller, but like, I don't know. It's probably, it's probably whatever, I guess. I don't know. Right now, I really wish someone, like, I wish 8BitDo would make, and someone please tell me if they do, but I don't think they do, if they made a Saturn pad that was wireless, that would be dope, because the problem that I'm going to run into, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this stream, I've got a whole setup here, and some of my systems are they're way over there, man. They're way over there, and I don't have cables that can reach this far. So either I would have to not use the webcam, which, I mean, I guess I could do that, because the webcam won't reach over there, and a controller won't reach over here. So, like with my Saturn, especially once Professor Abrasive finishes the Satiator, which I support on Patreon, and apparently that means I'm going to get first crack at ordering one. When that thing hits, like, I'm going to want to stream some Saturn stuff, but I can't. The setup I'm using right this moment will not work. So, hopefully, a wireless 8BitDo should just make controllers for everything, basically, is what I'm saying, because I don't. In my old setup, it really didn't bother me that much. And generally, I guess it still doesn't if I'm just playing games for myself. But if I'm streaming, it's a hassle. So, we'll see. See what we see. See what we see about finally beating Scorp. How about that? I'm just going to spam the jalapeno comment. That's what I'm going to do. Really? Really? And then now, yep, and that's gonna basically be the app. That's it. Oh, hey, I was able to roll out of the ring. And then he hits me with a tope, of course. Of course he does. And he grapples me automatically, even though I'm pushing the button and we're the same distance apart. Like, that's the biggest problem with this game, and I cannot tell you enough how much it's improved with Muscle Bomber Duo. That's a double count out. Yeah, that's right. He didn't win. But yeah, that's the biggest improvement, and Muscle Bomber Duo is just, it plays so much better. The only problem is all the matches are tornado tag team matches. So if you're playing by yourself, you have an AI partner that you have to kind of like rely on, and that's not great. But the controllability of the thing, I think, makes a difference. So. That's cool. what a suplex. 1, 2, 3. Boom. New champion. Only one victory crown. You can get a big bonus if you don't lose any matches for winning the title. Yeah, hang your heads in defeat. His name is El Stingray. Only the greatest and strongest deserve admiration. And since I am the greatest and the strongest, all must praise me. A new battle begins. So once you beat it, you can play through it again, and then there's a second, like there's a, so you do title defense, and then there's another ending where Victor Ortega shows up to challenge you, but then you don't actually fight him. Then you can't, and he's not in, they didn't actually add him as a playable character until Slime Masters 2, but yeah, I think I'm gonna switch it up here, so I'll be right back. Since I've been talking a lot about this controller and like the lag and the noticeability, like let's play something that really would excuse me, something that would really have a problem with the lag. There is a pornographic shoot 'em up for the Sega Genesis, but I don't know who is all watching this, and 2, I don't want YouTube to get really, really mad at me for posting topless anime girls in a shooter. Like, it's just in the cutscenes, like it's like the game is like a pretty bad shooter apparently, and then like there are cutscenes with naked anime girls. I'm not gonna play that, but I am gonna play a shoot 'em up. Which one? Kind of thinking about Thunder Force. Kind of thinking about Thunder Force 3 or Thunder Force 4. Both of which I own, of course. But again, it's easier to do it this way. Let's do Thunder Force 3. Oops. Alright, hopefully now you're... If that's a problem, if you can't hear me, if the game's too loud, or if it's too quiet, let me know in the chat. I'm not gonna put a shoot 'em up. Also, I gotta say, I don't. Some people, I guess, are speculating that's an April Fool's joke, but R-Type Final 2 got announced today, apparently. And again, there are some people who are like, it's an April Fool's joke. And like, I mean, it's not impossible. It could be an April Fool's joke. There's no doubt that it could be an April Fool's joke. But I really don't think it's an extremely intricate April Fool's joke if it is, because it's like a website with no tongue-in-cheek, no sense that this is a joke, that this is a goof, that this is, a rib, like that. There's no sense of that in any of the stuff that I saw. So I am hopeful that, like, that's legit. We are getting R-Type Final 2. Because R-Type Final is dope and has some of the best, worst cover art, around. Man, this weapon makes a really annoying noise, doesn't it? I forgot that. Let's switch weapons to something less annoying. Oh, I don't even know. Okay. I guess I'm sitting too far away, because I'm not really sure how I'm dying, but... What? Okay. You guys can probably see better than I can how I just got killed. I guess I probably hit the ground or something. Whatever. This would have been the weapon to use to get those ground targets, I suppose, wouldn't it? Stupid. Whoops. I swear I'm pretty good at shooters. Wow! Wow, that's embarrassing. That was embarrassing. This doesn't usually happen to me. Do I want to continue? No, I don't. I just got mollywopped. Why would I want to continue? I didn't even finish the stage. What's the point in wasting a continue for that? And just because I'm streaming, like, we'll just do some. We'll go to different stages. The soundtrack is so good. It's too bad that some of the weapons are super annoying. But okay, so even though I sucked that last game, it's not because of the controller, it's not, there's not, again, not enough perceptible lag that I can say, like, oh, I couldn't dodge those bullets, or I couldn't get out of the way of that, whatever, because of the, because there were, no, I just suck on my own, is basically what I'm driving at. It is not a controller lag problem. 3.6 milliseconds of average lag on these commands is not what led to my undoing. It was my own being a scrub. Get out of here. I like that some of the bullet impacts sound like a Geiger counter. now this thing is super useful, right? Because, and of course I lost it immediately because I actually suck at video games, as it turns out. Whoa. The fact that I'm so far away from the screen is more of a handicap than the controller lag. Can I beat this boss on one life? I'm gonna go with no. But see, I was able to dodge that attack. Like, that was pretty slick, right? Like, that first shot that I squeezed right in between the... And, like, again, if controller lag was a problem, that would not... I would not have been able to do that. I guess I'm going to continue just because I don't remember if I start at the beginning of the stage or like in the middle. Right, so at the beginning. So yeah, there's really... There's no reason to waste to continue if you haven't finished a stage yet, because it literally is just a waste to continue, so... I don't know if my shoot 'em up skills have just atrophied that badly, or like... I don't know. No, I don't want to waste to continue. Thanks, though. feel like that's a stage you're not really supposed to go into unless you already have some power-ups. Yeesh. The G Lobster. You would never believe that I used to play in like tournaments for this style of game and do well, like win prizes. But I did. There's trophies over there. Snarkcast Productions says, "Hey, sorry I'm late. You're not obligated to me in any way. You missed a bunch of wrestling games, and I mean, obviously the archive will be available as it always is. You missed some wrestling games, and you missed me so far sucking really badly at Thunder Force 3, to the point where I'm embarrassed. But you know, whatever." I'll be hanging out for about another half hour here. Oh, right, because those things have such massive explosions. That's why I was getting killed earlier. It's not just the missile you have to look out for, it's the fact that when it blows up, if you're anywhere near it, you just get wasted. Love that the ships that drop power-ups, like, they just disappear like that if you don't catch them right away. Say, I'm not putting this game down until I can beat at least one stage. Snarcast says, I need to go through the whole Thunder Force series again myself, but I wish I had a Saturn to play TF5 because I prefer that version. Hilarious that the weak spot is his dick. Yeah, I mean, it's a glowing thing where his dick would be. I don't know if that thing has a dick. Anyway, yeah, Thunder Force 5, so now I'm trying to remember. I feel like that's one that some people say the PS1 version actually is better. I'm not sure that I totally believe that. But you never know. I mean, like the PS1 version of the Nakamura collection from Capcom, you know, the PS1 version actually is better than the Saturn version. Mostly owing to, I mean, they play pretty much the same, but the Saturn's weird resolution means it like cuts off part of the game. So. Now see, this is something that vaguely resembles how I should have been playing this game from the beginning. And as soon as I say that, then I just start dying. So that'll teach me. Snarkhouse says, strange I've always heard otherwise. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, I mean, I could be wrong again. That could be me being totally mistaken. Because usually, especially when it comes to 2D stuff, you know, accepting, of course, the train wreck that is Symphony of the Night, the Saturn version usually is better. But I do feel like I've heard some people say that they prefer the PlayStation version. Maybe it's just the PlayStation version's more accessible, so it's just like, ugh, I hate those things. It's just that the PlayStation version's more accessible, so that's the one, you know. Should have learned by now not to shoot those things, but... Oh, wow. Snarkcast has never played the Saturn version of Symphony of the Night. It's interesting. It has Maria, but she plays totally differently than she plays in later versions where you could play as her. But it's just not a good port. That's just the easiest way I can put it. It's not a good port. If you really want to know, sort of get a breakdown on it, John Linneman at Digital Foundry did a really great video about it, and sort of goes in depth on like all the weird technical quirks, the way they scaled it for the Saturn's resolution, like makes there's like weird pixel warping, and it's just not it. It's just not a good version. But it's interesting. It's also really expensive, so it's like you're kind of paying for this weird curiosity. You're paying for a curio that just isn't worth it, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most people. But again, if you have a Phoebe or a Rhea, or you're going to get a Satiator when those become a thing, then it might be worth checking out. But it's that was worth it. It's completely out of circulation, at this point, so... It's just one of those things. sort of like I'm trying to think of another. You know what it's like? It's sort of like the Super Nintendo ports of Ninja Gaiden. Like, super rare, expensive. People will tell you that it's dope, but it's not. That's cool. I didn't need that power up anyways. Didn't even make it to the boss that time. My god. Snarkcast says that's usually how it is for Saturn titles, especially imports. You know, I find that it cuts both ways. Sometimes it's like this weird thing and it's really expensive, and then sometimes it's like a fraction of what the US version. Like my copy of Saturn Bomberman, which is the Japanese version, I think I paid $30 for it. You know, and the US version of that game is just like it's astronomical, you know. So it's one of those things where it can really, really go either way with Saturn stuff. But usually, if the game was released in both territories, it's cheaper to get the Japanese version. Didn't quite get the shield, which is unfortunate because the shield is really helpful. That's good. Good job, me. Wow. Yeah. Snarkcast says, I love the system, but getting imports was a challenge. Since you lived in DC, I'm sure you knew of a local star called, local store called Starland, which is where I used to import my games. Yeah, Starland. They're eStarland now, but they used to be just Starland. And yeah, I knew of them as a website until I moved there, and then my friend Kurt was like, no, it's like a store. And I was like, oh, I just ordered games from there online, and then like he took me there, and it's just like a big warehouse full of video games. It's pretty cool. And Snarkcast also says, makes me wonder what would have happened if Bernie Stolar didn't say the Saturn is not our future. So that was a boneheaded move by Bernie Stolar, I think, for sure. But also, like, he did not inherit a good situation. You know, you can relitigate the Saturn forever, and it's one of those things where it's just like it feels like there we go. It feels like I mean, it really feels like Sega of Japan was sabotaging on purpose. Like, why? Who knows? But, you know, you just kind of get that vibe. Like, what were you guys doing? Why would you not just, like, just let Tom Kalinske run? Like, Tom Kalinske is smart dude, right? He like, I mean, most people like us know him from Sega, but Sega was not Tom Kalinske's first rodeo. Not by a long shot. And he was a smart guy. He was proven. He'd been very successful at Mattel. He obviously was very successful at Sega. And it's just like, I live across the street from the fire station now. You know, it's just, I missed the homing pickup. That's not good. Oh, come on. No, I didn't miss it. I grabbed it. Wow. I don't know why. Here we go. Here we go. Yes. I'm not that terrible at shoot 'em ups anymore. Snarkcast says, East Starland, I need to go back there. It's on the route I take to and from work. Yeah, I hadn't been there in a while when I left DC, and I actually feel like I probably should have gone one more time. There is a retro store, or like a mom and pop game store, out here that I have not yet visited. There is one out here in Nashville that there's only one that I've been able to find, so I gotta go check that out. Alright, I'm playing until I'm out of continues, which this is my last continue, so we'll see how this goes, and then I'm gonna wrap it up for this month's Patreon stream. If you're watching this archived and you made it this far, you can check these out when they're live by giving just $1 per video to the Patreon, which is patreon.com/onthestick. But, what was I talking about? That's, yeah, there is, or there are, I should say, a few arcades out here. So that's, you know, that's something that I need to do. Eric's actually coming out here for WrestleMania. Next weekend. So I think we're going to try to go to at least one or two of the arcades around here while he's here. So check those out. And maybe we'll just, you know, maybe I'll try to make the case of like, let's go check out this game store while he's here as well. I don't know. But either way, I need to go check that out. Sort of report back. But music in this game is so good. Boom. I'm getting back into the groove. God, I'm almost in silhouette. Sorry about that. I could turn on the light, but I'm almost done, so I guess, you know. No. Good. Homing shots don't kill the bubbles, I forgot that. Come on. Lost my shield because I forgot about the moving floor. Don't like that. Ah. Just throw my spaceship in reverse here. Oh, come on. Grab that one up. Not today, Satan. Oh, come on. Here we go. That's a sneaky trick, game. See, 3 stages ago, I was like, this is my last continue. I'm done after I run out of continues. And now I said, I'm getting my groove back. I'm remembering how to play shoot 'em ups. I gotta play more shoot 'em ups. I used to play a lot. I used to play so many shoot 'em ups, and I just kind of. Not that I stopped liking them, because I still love them. It's just that I just kind of stopped spending as much time with them. And this is one of those. It's not as bad as Gradius because you don't lose all your weapons and you can switch between weapons, but it's similar to that where it's like, oh, if you die and you lose your shield and your little options, you know, that can have a pretty heavy impact. You know, but. Lost my shield. Oh boy. Lost my options, lost my shield. Lost all my weapons except the one that's not going to help me on this boss fight. Ah! Yes. Yes. Snarkcast says TFO has had great music. Well, maybe not the first game, as all that played was the 8-bit William Tell Overture. Even Technosoft in general had the unique style of music. Herzog 2 is a perfect example. Even when I play a similar game on PC or Xbox, AirMac, I have Herzog music in the background. Yeah, that's legit. William Tell Overture. So classical music, classical music has its place in shoot 'em ups. The Parodius series. So this is a stage you can't see until you beat all the other stages. But yeah, Parodius used public domain music because basically they didn't have time for the Kukeha Club to compose anything more, and so it was just like, oh, yep, that's it. We're just doing. We're just doing public domain stuff because that's easiest on the time crunch we're on, and this I already referenced a couple times in this game. Was it this game? This William Tell Overture? Or not William Tell Overture, Beethoven. Or was that Wrestle War? That was Wrestle War. Never mind. Anyways. Public domain tunes, man. been really nice to snag. I'm not getting another chance, am I? No, I'm not. There we go. That helps. That's good. A shield would be really dope right now. That would be the ultimate. Oh. Ah! See, that's just maddening. It's like you have to... Oh no, 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 no. Boom. Destroyed the enemy battle cruiser. Boy, it's been a minute. I think this is the final stage.